from Vienna, Austria, Avalanche, and from Dresden in Germany, Shooter Schulz. Together, they are blown up.
The big man is in there! The Avalanche! Shooter is out!
Look at the Avalanche! Look at the power of this! Look at the
Time for Blown Up, like the great Sept of Baylor, the Game of Thrones special with Sir Felix, Sir AJ and Sir Jurn. This podcast does not include pits, ladders, red weddings, strange ceremonies with fire swords on the beach, wildfire beheadings, death of the podcasters involved, and especially a ring to rule them all. This is Blown Up and we know things.
Hello and welcome everybody to this very special episode of Blown Up. My name is Avalanche, aka Robert Dreisker, and with me, the mighty Shooter Schulz.
Hello Robert. Hello dear listeners, here is the mighty Shooter Schulz. And today we have a special topic we will talk about, and don't worry, it's not Zivildienst or Bundeswehr. This time we go into the entertainment industry again, because we talk about a series I'm a very big fan of, Game of Thrones. Robert, what's your opinion to Game of Thrones?
Yay! I've never seen even one episode.
I have a question about it even. I'm just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Why? That's the question. Why?
Because I'm not really into the topic. And also, I can't really even remember what the last series I got really invested in was.
Oh, you're not a serious watcher.
So, yeah, because I just don't have the time in my regular day. So, I prefer watching silly stuff on YouTube, that like those 10-minute videos of whatever the hell the content is. But I'm not a big serious guy.
I think, by the way, that was like the rock bottom of humanity, like a couple of years back, when I also watched those Vine videos, which are only, I think, 7 seconds long. Like that's like, and then you watch compilations of 100 of 7 seconds videos, and that's all the focus I could get on those 7 seconds.
All right,
that's it.
let's make this clear. It's not that I look like those 10-second videos or stuff like that, but there's a bunch of cool YouTubers out there that I enjoy watching, and if I have like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of spare time, I would rather watch a video on there or turn on some wrestling or whatever than doing the series. Because also, how should I say, like if I get into a series, I have to binge watch it. Yes. You know what I mean? Like it hardly ever happens, but
that's how it was with Game of Thrones with me. I binge watched it 7 seasons, and then waited 1 year for the last one, which was tough. Waiting 1 year for the last season.
Yeah, but you made it, bro. You made it.
I made it. I'm a better human now. So, I guess, Robert, the next, like an hour or so, will be kind of boring for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be. And also, I don't want to get spoiled if I, for whatever reason, get into Game of Thrones in the future. So, I guess for me, it's the right time to get the F out of here.
Okay, so I guess it's only us, and I don't want to be that alone. So, ladies and gentlemen, with me talking about Game of Thrones are none other than The Crown, Alexander James, Jurn Simmons. Have fun. So here we are at the breakfast table of AJ, Alexander James. With us also is Jurn Simmons, and we're talking about Game of Thrones. Good morning, gentlemen. Have a good meal, AJ.
Yeah, I would also like to mention my breakfast table is also my coffee table / also the only surface in this room. So.
Yeah, great.
All right, I'm done now.
It's really good to hear.
Yeah, man. I was just trying to give you a lay of the land.
We've been talking for like 10, 15 minutes already. I don't think any of it was actually about Game of Thrones up until this point.
No,
we save the good stuff for now.
Yeah, that's true. Keep it fresh.
I mean, yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. When did you guys start watching Game of Thrones? Were you one of the first season watchers or got in it later in life? And have you read the books?
I know a little bit about the books. Like, I know just from what Jurn and some others have told me, and like Google and stuff. Like, I know like Lady Stark comes back from the dead and stuff like that in the books, and I think a couple people aren't characters in the books or something like that. But like, I started watching right after season 5 wrapped up, and then I just binge watched the first 5 seasons, and then I watched regularly as it came out from there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of had the same. I watched like the first 2 seasons when they like right after season 2, and then but I just got the DVD like box sets or whatever, and I was like, oh, I'll get season 3, and then it wasn't out yet, and then I just kind of forgot about it until people were posting on Facebook about the finale of season 5, and then I just binge watched all of it again. And been following it on a weekly basis ever since. So
I find that really strange that after season 2, you're like, oh, I forgot about this show for like 3 years.
Dude, the whole thing was like, it took like a year for like because there's a year skip, right? Like, it takes a year for another season to come out. So I just it just totally slipped my mind. And I also, like, I haven't read the books, but I've read a lot about the books, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's like on the medias and all that kind of shit. So,
yeah. But also, to be fair, I guess it's not that crazy to think of you forgetting about the show for a while, because, like, the first, I would say, like, 3 or 4 seasons of the show, like, people weren't going crazy on Twitter about it, like they are now.
No.
I'd say the majority of Game of Thrones fans are people that are late adapters and then just binge watch it.
True.
Yeah, it's like the good thing is, I found out about the show through my brother, and the only reason he knew about it was because one other person told him about it. So yeah, it wasn't really that big of a thing, I suppose, or at least maybe just not in our world.
Yeah.
I think I had some like some friend I knew. She kept suggesting it, and I was like, shut the fuck up. And then, but I saw it was like a popular show, and I was like, I'm really, really bored. Maybe I'll just get like HBO Go and see what shows they have on there rather than Netflix. And then I watched 1 episode of Game of Thrones, and once I was in. And then once Sean Bean lost his head, I was like, not getting out of this.
Yeah.
So, well, why did she recommend it to you? Is it because you love sex and Game of Thrones is full of it?
No, well, the earlier season is hell yeah, but I think she just recommended it because she really liked it, and then she was like, oh, like, I think it's up to your alley, you like eat dorky shit, it's got dragons and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, well, fuck you. That sounds amazing. But also, like, thinking about that, like, someone else, like, years later, it was like when season 6 or 7 was about to come out, I was like, oh, you should really watch this show. It's really good, really great character development, plot lines that last a real long time but just come together. Like, it really messes with your emotions. They're like, oh, no, I don't like that kind of thing. It's got dragons and sword fights. I'm not into that dorky shit. And I'm just like, listen, bitch, it is not about that at all. Like even though like on the outside it's window dressed and very like medieval like topic in a sense, like really like that plays a very small role. Like, I mean, obviously it's the world that they live in and stuff, but like anybody who likes any type of genre, as long as you like good storytelling, I think you get into the show. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't like medieval stuff or knights and stuff like that. Like, I think no matter what, it's enough. The storytelling's enough to hook people and the characters themselves.
Yeah, I think so too. But like, to be fair, like the whole like medieval stuff and dragons is also like would help, get me to watch it because I do like that kind of shit.
Because you're a dork.
But, yeah.
Hell yeah.
But how about you, Shooter? How did you get into it, huh?
Yeah, host. Answer our questions.
Yeah, sure. I think I watched the first episode a couple of times, but I didn't get into it because the first episode is too much if you're not into it already. Because there's incest and like a little boy is dying. That's
hell yeah.
Yeah, I get it from your redneck standpoint, but for me as a civilized person.
Listen here, hee-haw. When little half pint catches you and your sister making out in the barn, you ain't got no choice but to throw him from the top of the hay bale.
Yeah, but yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and then I started reading the first 2 books in German, which is like the first English book. They split it in German, and it was way too long.
Lazy fucks.
Yeah.
It's because Germans are a little slower.
Yeah. Also, like 1,000-page.
This is a German podcast.
Nah. Actually, it's not. Bertel is Austrian, so.
Oh yeah, that's right.
No, but yeah.
My bad. Edit that out.
I will not do that.
This is a nice international podcast. Leave that shit in.
No, like, and then I read the first books, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't have the time to read, 10 books like this or whatever. So at some point, give it another chance, the series. And it was like, I think after season 6 or so, or right before season 7 came out, so I could watch the first 7 seasons without a problem, like binged it, and then had to wait this 1 year to now, which is okay after not waiting every year. That would be terrible.
Yeah. So, Shooter, I think what's on everybody's mind is, are the sex scenes just as juicy in the book as they are on the show?
Let me think, because I started the books again. Not yet, to be honest. Because I'm still in the first season, so to say. There's not that much sex, there's more like politics.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that in the show as well, but, they spice it up.
Yeah? So, what hooked you? Like, what was the part where you thought it looked nice? That's special. Well, that's cool.
Well, I know for AJ, it's the sex, because AJ loves sex.
All right. That's an inside joke not people are going to get, all right?
Yeah. That's why you got to put it out there, man.
Oh, no. Let's not do that.
But personally, for me, what hooked me on the show is kind of what like AJ alluded to earlier as well. Is obviously like that it has the whole medieval vibe and the dragons and all of that kind of stuff, but it's very much more so like the characters and how they're acted and portrayed and everything, which really hooked me because I don't know, like all of the characters are super layered, or at least most of them, and it's like I think like for me as well, like as I don't know, like a performer or entertainer or whatever, it's super interesting because it's it kind of avoids, most of the time it avoids the whole trope of just completely good versus evil, and most of the characters are just in this gray area that sometimes they work together, sometimes they conflict with each other. So yeah, that's what hooked me.
I think for me, like suggestions and the medieval part of it definitely hooked me because, like, Jurn, as you can tell, us being crowned a huge ass dork as well. But like after first episode, where you see Jamie and Cersei, fucking get hitting it in the hay, and I'm like, oh, that's gross. They're brother and sister. But then, of course, once Bran walks up and Jimmy shoves him out the window, that is a big oh fuck moment that definitely had me hooked. And then every episode after that does a brilliant job of like keeping you hooked for the next one. And then again, once the person who you think is the hero of the story dies at the end of season 1, you're like, man, I just gotta keep going with this. Like I think it's a brilliant job of because I think the only moral compass you truly have in season 1 is Sean Bean. He's the only one that is an early front runner to be the good guy. Even though but even still, he has a shade of gray because supposedly, cheated on his wife, had a little Jon Snow, and But even still, even in that world, he's the highest moral compass, and then he dies and loses his head. So you're kind of like, well, shit. Like, I think it just leaves you with no choice but to wonder what's going to happen next within this world.
I mean, but I don't know. He does kind of have the highest moral compass, but that also ends up shafting him. You know what I mean?
That's what his honor is interesting about it.
Yeah, but his honor is what costs him. But then later, because that's what I thought was super interesting, which I think is in season 3 of the show, where it has the scene with Jamie in the bathtub, where he basically tells his entire story to Brienne, right? And that's where it's kind of oh yeah, honorable Ned Stark just completely screwed over Jamie by villainizing him. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where his honor isn't that high of a moral compass. But like I said earlier, that's kind of what hooked me on the show and what intrigued me is the gray areas of just human psychology.
All I heard is the part that really hooked you is the bath scene with Jamie.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, I get it. He's a beautiful man.
He definitely is. Even when he was all fucked up,
Yeah, man, he wears
one arm.
He wears mud.
Sometimes one arm, sometimes one hand is all you need. Yeah.
If you need 2, you're just not doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
what hooked you on the show, Shooter?
I don't know. I liked. I am a big fan of history. I studied history, and I think this is the first show I felt, or the first medium that really captured also how history worked. That it's not as easy and as smooth. That's how it works. How one man can change everything or whatever, and can captivate the motivation of others or whatever. And that was very well put here in this series.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts and so many things happen because of so many other variables and circumstances. But to be honest, I was really hoping when you were saying I studied history, that you're about to be this is the most historically accurate show I've ever seen. Why doesn't anybody talk about the dragons?
I studied history at YouTube. And
I studied history.
No.
I'd really like to visit Westeros.
But I like the parts, for example, I like how in season 1 it gets pointed out, or even well past season 1 it gets pointed out. For example, Robert, would be usually in media, in entertainment and film and TV and all that, would be kind of a, very standard heroic figure.
Yeah.
Because, he wins the war and all of that stuff, and he was a great warrior. But then, I do like how they point out, it's well, yeah, but then you kind of have to rule a kingdom, and he was shit at that, And then, but then, for example, you have, someone like Tywin, who isn't necessarily, the best warrior, I think. I think he was knighted, but whatever. But Tywin much more just controls everything behind the scenes. And then, you get stuff like the Red Wedding and all that stuff. But then, I like the duality of the Red Wedding as well, because Tyrion gets all turned up about it, because he's oh, you can't kill everybody at a wedding, blah, blah, blah. And then Tywin goes yeah, I can kill a couple hundred people at a wedding, or thousands die in war. So what's the better option? Yeah. And I really like all of those kind of scenes.
I think so too, because those are also a generational conflict, right? You have Tywin and what's her name? Lady Olenna? Olenna, right?
Yeah, Olenna Tyrell.
Yeah, Olenna it was, because those two are kind of on one level, in my opinion.
I see that. And their dialogue between the two of them is really good as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have the next generation, which is Ned and Robert, and then you have the kids and what they do out of this situation.
Yeah.
And as you said, yeah, Robert is not the nice guy. Even he won the war. He was a war hero, which I think is also nice. That there is no happy end, and then everything is just fine. It always goes on, and you can see that also at the end, like in the last episode. It's not, or like in the last season. There's no happy end. The evil is slain, but it's still going on. People are still people and doing their shit, and I think that's what makes it so interesting.
And that goes into what you said about history too, because like historically, like yes, there like we read in the history books like, oh, this battle ended at this time, and but there's like things continue onward. It's not like if we were starting a war and then it ended tomorrow on Monday. It's like Tuesday, everything is fresh and new, and like thank God, no, there's so much stuff that keeps going on. And I think that's part of the beauty of the ending is it's like, oh, it doesn't feel like a definitive ending because like there's no such thing in like actual life and events, and especially things of that magnitude that would happen.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's the whole thing, right? Like they you know, spoilers for everybody. Like they beat the whole like White Walkers.
Weeks, you motherfuckers.
This is a podcast only about Game of Thrones. I think there are still so many spoilers in here, so.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, obviously they beat the Night King and his army of White Walkers and Whites, and then they defeat, you know, Cersei and Dany.
Did you just say his army of Whites?
Yeah. White Walkers and Whites. That's how the zombies are called, AJ.
I know, but, like, one, I didn't realize that, and two, just hearing it out loud just sounds ridiculous and racist at the same time.
But yeah, like they beat the threat of the night, and then they beat Dany and Cersei, but then they still have to rule the kingdoms. You know, like I really like that about the ending because, like you guys said, like shit's got to keep going on. You know, and that's the same thing with, like, for example, like once again, like a character like Robert or whatever. Like there's so many stories like in actual history of like guys being like war heroes or like warrior kings and like or kings that are loved by the people and all of that, and then all of a sudden they get poisoned, you know, or something like that. So yeah.
But as you guys mentioned, the Red Wedding, which was season 4 or 5? 4?
Oh man, I'm about to get so sad.
I think it was the end of season. I think it was like episode 9 of season 3.
Oh, that could also be.
I think it was a little later than that. I think it was season 4.
All right, why don't you look it up, AJ?
I do it.
Man, why do I have to do it?
I do it.
Because
you're right.
Questioning.
Season 3, episode 9, it was.
Yeah, so fuck off, AJ.
Oh, okay. So how did you fucking you Googled it, you little bastard?
Yes, I did.
No, I didn't. I just know. I've watched the show.
So
3 times.
Friends. This episode was something special, obviously. I think it was like, for me at least, one of the most shocking things I've seen on TV. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Especially because like they really take you for that ride too. Like his Robb Stark's like wife or about to be wife, whatever she is. She's like, I'm gonna name the baby Ned and this and that, and like she's finally won over his mother, and she's like, oh wait, no, this is for the best. She's a good egg, and then like obviously she's beautiful, so like it's like this just perfect little happy fairy tale thing that you want for them since all the shit they've been through and about to go through. Little do you know, and then everybody dies, and it's just harrowing. And like he tries to like walk, and he's just getting shot down with arrows, and like honestly, like that part hit me really hard, but I didn't really truly feel it till Arya's right outside the castle, and then all of a sudden his body gets like brought out on a horse with
with his decapitated wolf head.
Yeah, with the head on his body, and like because that to me was like so gross and disrespectful, and like that's when you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, like, because for me it was also a thing, like, obviously, as we covered earlier, Ned Stark dies end of season 1. But, like, to me, like, from season 2 onwards, it was kind of a thing. I was like, all right, you know, Robb is going to pick up the mantle, and he's going to be the big hero of the story, and we're all going to support him. And then that completely gets thrown out the window. But, like, after I like rewatched it for like the second time or whatever, like Red Wedding as well, like gets built up like in little scenes in between, like really well, with just like there gets it gets hinted at communication between like Tywin and Roose Bolton and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Right? So, and like the whole reveal with Roose wearing chainmail is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
But
That's like...
Plus, like, something I think it's obvious, but at the same time, like, because we're talking about the show and how it's like, you know, most stories are linear. It's about one specific thing, and it might change the villain, like, series to series. But this whole thing is just about one moment in their history, and then all the chaos that it causes for 8 to 10 years, leading to another point in history where it kind of calms the fuck down. It's not necessarily about one specific thing, because at first, like, the first 2 seasons, it's like, okay, the rebellion of the North versus the South, but then that once the Red Wedding happens, that major plot point of the show is just shut the fuck down. Like, there's no more rebellion. The North is just done.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's all these other things going on around it that then take center stage. And I think that's a cool thing about the show is like you're just following these stories, getting invested, but you're just watching an ever-changing landscape of a country and life rather than like most shows are based around maybe one huge plot, a couple subplots, and it's relatively like the same show for however long it airs. Like same format, same structure, all that kind of stuff about the same things. And this, it's ever changing because you never know what could happen. And like even like some deaths happen out of nowhere and you don't suspect it, but that's life. Not everybody loses their life in this big dramatic fashion. Sometimes it's just snuffed out. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really beautiful storytelling thing about the show and what helps grip people into the ride.
Yeah, I think so
Which
too.
I also think... Oh, yeah.
No,
go
please,
ahead, Shooter.
please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, which I also think is funny in, like... with the last season with episode 3, which was obviously, like, the battle for Winterfell, I saw a lot of people complain that not enough characters died because so many people are used to Game of Thrones killing off characters. But then, like, to me, it's also a thing of, like, well, you haven't really been paying that much attention because most, like, important characters or even just characters in general don't really die in the big battles, right? Like, you have to battle for Blackwater, you have to battle of the Bastards, like, you have all these battles, like, none of the real major characters die in those. Like, it's always, like, in some other, like, more dramatic, emotional moment because that means much more for the story.
Yeah, if you had, like, what's big lady's name? I forget. Brienne. If you had Brienne die, and then maybe Potsley or whatever her little companion is, and then maybe this other person, like, yeah, Podrick, and then, like, some other people, then the deaths of, like, the actual characters that did die don't really mean as much. And
yeah, if you look at the death at the Battle of Winterfell, like, if you look at Jorah, you know, like, that's the ultimate death for him, is basically, like, protecting Daenerys Targaryen, you know.
Yeah.
And then Theon being finally kind of, like, vindicated and having his redemption through protecting Bran and dying there as well. Like, all of the deaths that did happen in the Battle of Winterfell or at the Battle of Winterfell, like, definitely meant something, you know, so.
Yeah, for example, Jorah also was very important there for the character development of Dany, because that was like one of the last straws before then. Or what was the maiden's name? Not Melisandre, that is the other one. But what is her name? The one that was...
It begins with an M.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That was like the last thing I think that pushed her over the edge, but Jorah was...
And I think that's a big thing people miss, because a lot of people complained about, like, the end of Season 8 being like, oh, she just did this huge heel turn for nothing. But it's like, no, it was built up ever since the beginning. And they've always hinted to it and shown it. And then the dialogues they've even had within this, like, last couple episodes of being like, yeah, every time she took something over and killed the bad guy, she was considered good for it. So why is she ever going to think that no matter what she conquers or destroys, she won't be the good guy? And, like, all that kind of thing. But also, like, her going crazy was kind of built up. Like, she went through a lot of shit in that decade. And then the most major things that happened to her happened within the span of a couple weeks in that show.
Yes.
So, like, it's a long build to get to her to that point, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of personal losses for her. And then the whole thing that she's fighting for about to be taken away, because it turns out she isn't actually the right player.
Yeah, like, that's the whole thing, right? I do agree with, like, some of the criticism of the last season. Like, I do think some of the stuff is was hella rushed. You know, like I've like for example, I really like the character of Euron Greyjoy, but him just waiting like at Dragonstone to just shoot one of the dragons down was fucking bullshit. But
Yeah.
you know, like that was way too crazy, especially because then later for the big like battle at King's Landing, he's not manning one of the scorpions for some reason, even though like he's got fucking perfect aim, you know, but whatever.
Oh yeah, I noticed that as well. Like when the Battle of King's Landing happened, he was like coordinated rather than being on one himself. And I was like, didn't you already just shoot down a dragon?
Yeah, he
Like,
was the one that fucking killed one of them.
Yeah.
You
I was
know?
like, I'm pretty sure you got this in the bag, dog. Why don't you just go ahead and take the reins on that?
Yeah, but you know, so I do agree that like some of the stuff was rushed, but I think like Dany turning into like giving into her Targaryen madness definitely wasn't one of them. Because like you said, like she always like throughout the entire series, whenever she has setbacks, she deals with it like super bad, like not good at all, like completely irrational and super hot headed, right? And now she loses fucking Jorah. She finds out that Jon is actually the rightful heir and not her. And then she also notices that, well, the people of Westeros don't love her. They actually support Jon more than her. Then she loses Missandei. You know, she loses most of her Dothraki. So it's a bunch of shit like happening one after the other that like one of those things would stress her out like anyway. So when like 5 of those things happen, it's not that hard like to figure out that like she would, you know, go crazy, I think. But
I think that also might be important in her development or in the end of the series was there was nobody really there anymore who witnessed her hero or the deeds of heroism back in Essos, except for Grey Worm, and he's also just a soldier. He doesn't care for.
Oh yeah.
He has no moral.
Yeah. Also, like nobody gives a shit about Grey Worm, right? Except for the Unsullied, I guess, but they just follow his commands.
Yeah.
I guess like Tyrion was still there, you know, but Tyrion has always like kind of been 50-50 with Dany. I think.
He's been hesitant. Like he joined her because he thought it was like the best option, but it doesn't mean he believed in her wholeheartedly. But even still, he wasn't there since the very beginning, and everybody else was.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think that was like really the last point too for her, that she lost the connection to what she did, what was good or seemed good, and then she went apeshit.
Yeah, but I like because I think like because she loses the support of Jon as well, right? I guess she kind of loses like the love of Jon and stuff. So she decides on it like her rule being commanded by fear, and then like because I think the scene which like is episode 5, I think, is really good when they are like ringing the bells. And it's her like on her dragon, and just you could just see her have like an internal breakdown, basically, where it's probably just her like deciding it's like, oh, what the fuck do I do? And like her just really doubling down on the fear thing, and just like it's like, yeah, time to just like scorch all the innocents, so people will definitely fear her. You know,
But I kind of loved that moment too, because I think it's funny because for like for 8-10
I think
years,
that entire episode was great, by the way.
Oh, it was fantastic. But especially that moment, like, because I know so many people that have been watching this show that were so Team Dany, and for in that instance, for you to finally realize, oh, now that she's actually directed towards innocent people, she's actually worse than Cersei by far.
Yeah, because she has a fucking dragon.
Yeah, but to then play with that audience, to play with the audience, and then be like, oh yeah, you've been actually rooting for like the worst character this whole time. You just did not realize it.
Yeah, I especially love that there are a shitload of people that like call their kid Daenerys or whatever.
Yeah, Kali.
You know, they.
I think
I hope they watch that
They
episode
gotta-
and they're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, it's like calling your
But
kid
that's-
Adolf Hitler or something like that.
Yeah.
Shit. That didn't work out well.
Hell yeah. No, but like the thing is like I said earlier, like I get like I understand a lot of the criticism for season 8, but then again, and I agree with some of it, but very much disagree with most of it. Like the Battle of Winterfell, I think, is one of the best episodes of the entire show. I do agree that most of their battle strategy was absolute shit, you know, but it made for better dramatic effect and storytelling. So as a performer, I understand that aspect of it and appreciate that part of it.
And even still, as a show watcher, I feel like you should be like, oh man, their battle strategy was shit. Why did like Jon and all them set this up? Rather than like, oh, the writers made them fucking have shitty strategy. Like, I think that's I think it's like a misdirection of heat. If anything, like, enjoy the show and just be like, oh, they just didn't have the best strategy. Like, armies aren't always going to when they battle something they've never fucking seen before. Like the only people that ever seen this before was like Jon and a handful of others.
Yeah, I guess Jon and like you know, some of the Night's Watch and some of the Wildlings. You know, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I did think like season 8 in general, it gets way too much criticism, and I think in general it's because people aren't getting what they want out of it, you know, and that's like the part of like what I enjoyed about Game of Thrones and what I talked about earlier on what hooked me is like the complete gray area of it all, and people are still expecting this like happy ending because like that's the whole thing,
because they fantasy booked it a certain way, and so they want it to be their expectations. But art and creativity and storytelling, it isn't like, granted, some people read a book and then the ending is really sad and pitiful, and they're like, oh fuck, what a depressing ending. Or a movie even, and they don't bitch about it. But I guess because they've invested this for like 10 years, that it has to meet their satisfaction at the ending. But if it doesn't, then they bitch about it and say it's bad writing. It's not bad writing. It's just, it's not supposed to be necessarily a happy ending. And it should. Yeah. And even the biggest quote from the one of the biggest quotes from the show is like, if you're expecting a happy ending, then you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, that tells you right from the start.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, for example, like Jaime Lannister's character, right? And his whole character development and his arc and everything. Like, people felt like super shafted by season 5 because he ends up back with Cersei and they die together, and it's like, well, like I personally always kind of expected that. You know what I mean? Like I always thought like Jaime's character and everything was fantastic, and I really like enjoyed it. Like, I think, but his character he's basically an addict. You know what I mean? And like his addiction is Cersei. So it's the same thing in where you, like, in real life, you hope for addicts to get over their addiction. You hope they, you know, rehab from it, and like everybody ends up back on their feet. But most of the time that doesn't happen, and they relapse and they fucking overdose. And that's exactly what happened to Jaime, you know. And even then, he still gets his redemption, like, post-mortem through Brienne in episode 6.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I feel like that's like one of the most like real and satisfying like character arcs there is in the entire show. But people were immediately, after season 5, they were immediately pissed, you know. And then, like, as you said, like, it's all bad writing. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, like, staying there for a second at character arcs, because I was also thinking there are not many really heroic character arcs. Like, there's no hero's journey or so really happening, because Jon was kind of in the end as he was in the beginning. He was an honorable man, like, very much influenced by Ned. Daenerys just turned heel and killed everybody.
It wasn't even that they explained it. She's just a Targaryen. Like, when they're born, it's heads or tails. Either they're a hothead or they're the good one. Jon's dad was the good one. Jon was the good one. Dany, not so much.
I don't think that's true. I think that's just, like, that's the legacy in historic writing later that's put onto this. It wasn't.
I'm not saying, like, genetically that's absolutely what happens in their world, but, like, that's the big saying was, like, most Targaryens are fucking pretty sinister and hotheads. Like, look at Dany's brother. Yeah,
also because all of Targaryens, like, fucking married their cousins and all that shit.
That's true.
So.
Incest, man. Which, to get back to your point,
look at Joffrey.
So
like,
I wanted to say, I think, like, maybe I don't remember correctly, but I remember only one real like character arc of somebody starting in a bad place and ending in a very heroic place, and that was the Hound. Or did I miss something?
I think Theon Greyjoy as well.
Oh yeah, Theon. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like those two are the ones that had redemptions in the end, and it ended with their death. Like their happy end ended with death.
The thing is, like, I think like the Hound doesn't even really get redeemed. You know what I mean? Like because he doesn't see himself as redeemed either. Like he sees himself as a piece of shit because he is, you know. But he the thing is, like, he does the world a favor by killing the mountain. Yeah. It's more the thing.
No,
I don't know if he really redeems himself.
I think he redeems himself when he was talking to Arya like 5 minutes before that. When he says, "Don't follow me."
Because he was like, "Hey, you follow me, you die. You get out of here. You get to possibly live a long, happy life." And like, because Arya was obsessed with killing and death and being the little badass assassin she was. But then it's the Hound of all people who became like a father figure for her to be like, "Hey, that's the path I took. That's the path I've always been." Like, kind of, it's in the subtext of it. And if you continue on this with me up these stairs, it doesn't end well. But if you kind of like break this cycle of yours and get out of here, who knows what you're going to do? And then she finally kind of breaks down and listens, like, I don't have to like complete this death list of mine. Like, maybe I let this go and just let it work itself out, because it will. It doesn't have to be by my hand. And then she gets out of there and she lives.
Also, she's trying to fill that hole directly, right? When she was trying to save civilians in King's Landing and all this, and it didn't work out. Right? She tried in that moment help this mother with her daughter, what it was, and they died like 2 minutes later. And you thought, I thought at least, okay, she will help them or whatever. Nope, they dead. It's still
nope, they dead.
So yeah.
Also, I know we got away from it for a second, but I want to go back to the Jaime thing, because I think Jurn's metaphor about Jaime being an addict is beautiful. Because, like, if like, not to sound like a mush, but like, love is the biggest addiction you could ask for.
You fucking idiot.
Yeah, no, but like, let's be honest. In storytelling, real life, all that kind of stuff, like, love makes people do crazy things, all that kind of stuff, and he absolutely is in love with Cersei. Yeah, man, one day you'll probably not do it, but anyway, that's why I love you. But so when he leaves, he still loves Cersei. When he's there with Brienne, he still loves Cersei. So, like, but also, like, the metaphor is beautiful, because if you look at a person with addiction, when they're on their shit and they have their supply, they look clean, they look okay, they look put together. Whenever he's with Cersei, he's like all done up. He's a true knight. When he's away from her and he's up north and he's got like stubble and he looks dirty and he looks grungy, he looks stressed. Like, it almost literally looks like, just through his physical appearance, like whether or not he has his drug, which is like his love for his sister, which just says crazy things about the addicting qualities of, you know, sister's vagina. It's fucking nuts. He needs that fix.
Spoken like a true redneck.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I guess.
No, but like even like the episode before, like I think it's episode 4 where he sleeps with Brienne, right?
Yeah.
Like even in that episode, like there's a scene like after they sleep with each other, where, because obviously like he sees like kind of, I think he sees Brienne as kind of like his way out, possibly.
I think so too.
But then they sleep with each other, and then like afterwards, like she's fully asleep and he's wide awake. So it's a thing of like, okay, like that's I think that's where the realization kicks in of like, okay, he can't kick it. You know, like he can't love Brienne the same he does Cersei. Like Cersei's the one for him. So.
Personally, I think you're overlooking this. I think he was just like sitting up in bed and was just like, wow, that was fucking awful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, that was not good lay right there. Fuck. Maybe she'll be better tomorrow. I don't know. He's just laying there like, man, did I fuck her or she fucked me?
Jesus. So, like
she wouldn't have these problems if she just ended up with Tormund.
True.
You know?
Honestly, I was like, so it's weird because like, honestly, when Jaime and Brienne got together, I was like, oh yeah, good for her. Like that's a cool story arc. She deserves love, all kind of stuff. She's one of the best characters. I really, really dug her.
Yeah.
And I thought her whole story and stuff was really good. So when she ended up with Jamie, I was like, yeah, good for her. This is good. But like, I know a lot of people that are like, no, boo, they shouldn't be together. That's weird. That's gross. I was like, why is that gross? Why is that? Why do you have an issue? Is it because she's tall? Like, I don't get this. Like, why do you have an issue with this? Like, I thought it was a very beautiful little love story that shouldn't be, but is. And like, I thought that was kind of great. But like, a lot of people seem to have a problem with it. I just didn't get that.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I also think like the scene where he knights her is amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, that was great.
Also, I also do have to say, like, it's got to be like one of the like best cast shows or anything ever, because like pretty much everybody in that show is fucking A class. Like they do amazing jobs with their characters and everything. Because that's actually funny. Because like one of my favorites, for example, is Charles Dance as Tywin Lannister. Yeah. Because Tywin just like with every little thing he does, like commands just so much presence and everything.
And he says like and everything he says just has a certain venom and disdain about it, no matter what it is.
Yeah, but like everything like that the actor does like feeds into it. You know, like builds the character, just every little thing. And then earlier this week I saw Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and he's in he's in that movie too. And like you could tell they just told him like, yeah, just play Tywin Lannister. Which also, like, if people are complaining about shoddy writing and all of that kind of stuff from in Game of Thrones and season 8. Please watch Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
So here's the thing.
Because you have nothing to complain about with Game of Thrones after you watch that.
So here's the thing, because I'm a big Godzilla aficionado, and I've seen most, if not all, of the Godzilla movies in history.
I love Godzilla too.
But here's the thing, like, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to it. But every Godzilla movie...
you definitely should.
Yeah, every Godzilla movie has, like, kind of a shitty subhuman plot to it as well. Like, all of them. So like So I'm probably like this one. I'm probably gonna have to be like, okay, cool. This. Let's wait for King Ghidorah and Godzilla to fist fuck each other. I'm looking forward to that. But like in every single one of them, from I think the original one was in '59, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, it was forever ago.
Yeah, from then on, it's always had a shitty like human side subplot. So I'm more than ready to like skin and bear it and just be like whatever.
Yeah, the thing is to quickly review, I guess, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. All of the monster scenes are fucking spectacular. Like they're awesome. Like all of those, extremely good. But all of the human scenes and the story, extremely bad. It's a really weird mix. But that's the thing. Like I think like with the 2014 Godzilla movie, I think like.
Guys,
like that one kind of stands out because the human story was all right. Like it wasn't obviously bad.
I think Shooter's trying to get us back on topic. So all that I'm hearing, I'm gonna go see Godzilla within the next 2 weeks, and then we're gonna have a follow-up blown up about Godzilla.
I mean, like Shooter needs to see it as well. Obviously.
I don't know.
It'd be cool if Battle would see that one too, because Battle hasn't seen Game of Thrones for whatever reason. I don't know how you can be, in this day and age, be a performer that is currently like just constantly busy with storytelling and not watch Game of Thrones. But maybe
in general, there are some people who are kind of proud of not having seen one episode of Game of Thrones, and I'm like, why are you proud of that?
I hate that shit. The people online that are like, oh, didn't watch Game of Thrones 1, don't care about this one. Okay, like I get it. The tweets bother you. Don't read them. Don't look at them. Block the hashtag from coming up or whatever. Or like, don't be a little dick about it.
Yeah. And
I hate that with anything.
But also don't brag that you have seen everything, like because that makes no sense either.
But like if people are like tweeting about like oh my god or this or that, like I don't see anybody bragging about it, but people like communicating online about it.
I know what you mean.
But and also another thing that grinds my gears. Something I wanted to bring up earlier when we were talking about complaints about season 8.
To any dumb motherfucker, which there's a lot of you out there, that I've seen post and complain that, oh, how the fuck did Greyjoy, Euron Greyjoy, sniper that one dragon out of the fucking sky with a weapon they've never ever used before, and this and that. And I know Jurn's gonna get hot about that. So is Felix. But I've seen like so many people complain about that when that episode came out, and I was like, you dumb motherfuckers! They established those things the season prior and haven't stopped talking about them since.
Yes, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jaime used it in a battle and like almost got Daenerys' dragon, and they fucking developed it and made it better since then. Shut the fuck up.
I think it's a big problem if people don't like
Pay
can't
attention.
fill in the blanks and read between the lines. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, like
so-
obviously, they tested the Scorpion like initially on like a dragon skull, like in the Red Keep, right?
Yes.
And then later Bronn used it in the battle for the first time and almost got one of them. So obviously, motherfuckers been running test runs, you know, like
Yeah. And again,
Like,
they added to it and they developed it and they even talked about how they were developing them and how they were experimenting with them and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a major thing in general, is a lot of complaints come from people not paying attention to the dialogue and the subtext in between some of the text. And I know not everybody has time to read things in Wikipedia and research things like I do or like Jurn does to ad nauseum or anything like that. But everything you need to know is given to you in the show. And like you can't just pay attention to the major events that happened, and when shit hits the fan, like the dialogue is super important.
dude, like one of the things that got me as well was people like people complaining. It was like, oh, I guess the long night was only one night, you know, because the Battle of Winterfell was over in one night. I was like, yes, that was the entire point. They were preventing the long night. You know, if the Night King had won, it would usher in the long night. That was the entire point.
And also the whole thing of like, oh, like winter's supposed to last so long, but it's like over this or that. And then like, did you not realize that Jon and Tyrion were locked up for weeks, possibly months?
Yeah.
Like they both came out like,
with hella big beards. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're looking at. Yeah.
you're all not fucking paying attention.
Like, but
Yeah, but it's the same thing of like people going like, oh, the Night King was defeated so easily, just one stab. I was like, what the fuck? You know, like, did you see the Battle of Winterfell? Homeboy gets pulled off a dragon, gets incinerated by dragon fire, and is like not harmed at all. He like Jon comes face to face with him for a duel. He avoids that. He avoids every other possibility
Also,
of him dying. So, like, what else do you want?
Also, supposedly, something that was a big thing is that he had to be stabbed in the place where him as a they're not a wildling, but one of the first men.
One of the first men. Yeah.
Yeah, because originally the Night King, because people are like, oh, they don't have backstory on the Night King. They talk about the Night King for 10 fucking years. You're just not paying attention because you don't listen to the dialogue. The Night King was one of the first, what was it? He was one of the first men, which is like a race before humans. Like,
no.
Or
Not
what?
before humans. It was the first humans that went over before the Andals came later. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
it's the humans that's later, like, up still part of in the north. People are from those people.
Yeah. Like the Starks are descendants of the first men, basically.
Yeah, and like like Bran runs into him or whatever, because like there's those little like children of whatever.
The forest.
Children of the Forest.
Yeah, children of the forest, and like one of them stabs one of the first men with like a special kind of blade in that exact spot, and that's what turns him into the Night King and evil.
Yeah.
So there's a whole specific reason why her shanking him underneath the stomach, right up under the rib, is what kills him.
Yeah.
And like that's the whole.
Dude, like it's also a thing of like people going like, yeah, but we never got to learn about the Night King's motivations and this and that. It's like, what do you mean? Like the motivations are all there. They're all given to you. The Night King was created by the Children of Forest to battle like the first men, to battle mankind, to kill them. You know? So the Night King's goal is death. You know, like he wants to end mankind because that's why he was made.
Yeah.
So that's what he does.
And
It's
that's
like,
why he wants to kill Bran, because he's like the memory of mankind. Like,
He's
yeah,
the history
exactly. Yeah.
but like the Battle of
It's
Winterfell.
all given to you.
Yeah. The Battle of Winterfell was amazing, obviously, and I have to
Absolutely.
I have to be true here and have to be honest. They had me. Like when the music started, and I think the scene when the music started was when Sansa and Tyrion were down in the crypt and they got the knife out or the dagger, and you were thinking like, oh no, don't do it, please don't do it. I was a wreck. Since the music started, I was done, and I was really thinking that's it. They just kill everybody now.
Which, by the way, the season 8 soundtrack is amazing, and the whole Night King scene score to it and stuff is super good.
Yeah.
It's on iTunes for anybody who wants to see what we're talking about. But the whole score,
It's on Spotify as well. Fucking everywhere. I think it's on YouTube even. So
yeah. So the score, which I can look it up what it's called right now, of where the Night King walks towards.
It's called the Night King.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is called the Night King. You're right.
Yeah.
And the composer,
super good.
The composers, by the way, is from Duisburg. So.
Awesome. So he's a fucking idiot.
No, he moved to LA.
Scratch everything we said.
Yeah, never mind. God, fucking deleting this album right fucking now.
Nah, he moved to LA. He made it better.
Oh,
okay.
USA.
Soundtrack's amazing, guys. Listen to it. No, but the whole thing is like, I completely agree with you, Shooter. And they had me like the entire time for the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah.
Like Battle of Winterfell was a 90-minute action sequence, and I was fucking like on the edge of my seat the entire time, wondering what the fuck was gonna happen.
Yeah, and like
you know what I mean?
every fucking hope spot I was into it. Like, fuck yeah, now oh no, it doesn't work. Shit.
Yeah,
like
and it's the whole thing of like the way everything is shot and all of that like is so well done because. And once again, like as a performer and everything, I very much appreciate it. Like they did a really good job of capturing the emotion of the human characters in there, you know, and like having you basically feel the same thing they feel, which like at the beginning is just like complete like mystery and unknowing, you just like ignorance because most of them don't know what the fuck they're about to face, you know. And then it just turns into complete chaos, and then like it just goes all over the place. It's amazing.
I liked
it's one of the best episodes of the entire show.
I liked even when they stopped like doing the chaos, and it was just from like one sec to the other. The scene in the library, there was no sound anymore, no battle sounds. It was just silence, and it was so creepy. It was like a horror movie at that moment.
Yeah, like that.
Wow.
But like that was really well done because that's a completely different because I think most of it is kind of horror movie-ish. You know what I mean? And I think like that's kind of the entire vibe of the White Walker army anyway. Is that it's all kind of like a horror feel, like because mystery and suspense in the beginning, like that's like classic horror stuff as well, and then the chaos with all of the quick cuts and all the zombies running wild, like that's horror as well. But like the library scene is so good because it once again like also establishes like Arya, you know, and like her abilities, because at one point like it gets pointed out in that scene that a drop of blood hitting the ground makes more noise than she does moving.
Yes.
Which obviously is crucial in the finish where she sneaks up on the Night King. You know, and even then, like when, because she bypasses all of the White Walkers due to, you know, her talents, even then the Night King still notices her. So it's like still puts him over even more as well. Like it's
and like I have seen
so well done.
I have seen dozens of reaction videos of this moment on YouTube of people reacting to this, and it's always like this great oh shit because like Arya, oh fuck no, he has her.
Yeah. Because even there you think like, oh god damn it. You know, you think like, oh Arya, it's the last hope, and then like he goozles her and it's like, never mind, fuck it. Yeah. So
like
it's incredibly well done.
Maybe like Game of Thrones is of course not just those big battle scenes and so. What are the small moments you liked over the last, I don't know, 8 seasons? Like, what was some stuff that like stayed in your mind or whatever?
Any man who says he is the king is not a king.
Where was
like,
that?
I think that's like what Tywin says to Joffrey, right?
Yeah.
I just think like I brought up Tywin a bunch of times. He's such a like fantastic character the entire way through.
You haven't even talked about Stannis yet, man.
Yeah, Stannis
the way he's introduced is amazing.
Well, like, yeah, but also like Stannis, like that, like that's one of my favorite scenes because it's like so fucked up and I hate it. Is Stannis burning his own daughter?
Yeah.
Like that scene, like even as I talk about it now, like gives me chills, you know, because like it's such a shit scene, you know, because of what happens, but it's so fucking good. Like it's so well done, like it's so well acted, like you can just see like Stannis' face doesn't change that much, but you can see he fucking crumbles inside.
Yeah, he had the scene before even, with his daughter in the cell.
Yeah, but like they have all those great moments as well. Like the moment with Stannis and his daughter, where like she kind of asks, like, because she like her mother like hates her, right?
Yeah.
And she kind of asks if Stannis hates her as well, and he basically explains that like every doctor came in here, you know, with the grayscale, and told you were fucked, and I told all of them to get fucked, and I got you healed. Yeah. You know, but that was a great scene as well. Like there's a lot of but that's I think is kind of weird about like the criticism of season 8. A lot of people go like, yeah, because like, oh, we've grown to love all of these scenes of all this great dialogue and all of that kind of stuff. It's like, yes, but there's this kind of like still storytelling 101 where shit builds, you know, and then you have a climax. You know, season 8 is the climax, so of course you have more of the big battles there and everything. But I also like looking back on it, like season 1, a lot of the scenes with Robert Baratheon and Ned are awesome. Yeah.
There was a great dialogue.
Also, what's cool about that is like in that Robert's always talking about the old battles and this and that, and at the time you don't really get like what he's talking about. But then as the show continues on, even seasons later, you get the explanation to exactly what Robert was talking about, and it's pretty badass. And then when you go back and watch it, it has so much more meaning.
Yeah, like in the first season,
way better on a rewatch.
There was like this great dialogue between Robert and Cersei, where like you saw the humanity in both of them for a moment there, and that they had the chemistry.
When they talk about their failed marriage, basically.
Yeah, that's so great. And also, like a scene I just remember was, I don't remember which context, when I think Littlefinger said to Cersei, I think information or knowledge is power. And she turns around and says to her, like, guards, grab him. Get him up, cut his throat. No, wait, turn around, walk 3 feet, turn around. No, Littlefinger, power is power.
Yeah, that's a really good one, too.
Also, I want to talk about for a second, like, how great of a character Tywin is. I feel like his introduction is the best of the show, because the first time you meet him, he's in a tent, like on a battlefield. You walk in, and he's just very calmly skinning an animal, something he just recently killed, and it's just like you're seeing this towering figure with this stern look, with this control of this army, and this genuine control, and he's just butchering something, just like he was folding a piece of paper, just going through it, and just like it's a very like powerful imagery and tells you exactly what you need to know about this character from the very start. And like even when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I get this dude.
The thing is, like, like even like in that scene, there's a lot of like there's symbolism because he's skinning like a deer or an elk, which is like the fucking
sigil of Baratheon.
Yeah, it's the sigil of Baratheon. So it's basically like it's signifying the Lannisters getting rid of the Baratheons, or Robert in this case. I think there's like a deleted scene as well, with like Tywin and Grandmaster Pycelle, which is great as well because like Tywin just completely sees through him and just goes like, yeah, you can cut the shit, cut the act. I know how you are, this and that. And then Pycelle just like, acts how he normally is. But in that scene as well, like he's like, I think he's like skinning a fish or something, which is then like symbolic of him like setting up the Red Wedding to get rid of like the Tullys because that's their sigil. Like there's a bunch of stuff like that.
I forgot about that scene too, because like the entire time that Meister's walking around like with a hunchback and he's always acting all fragile and stuff, but then like he says that and like his voice changes, he stands up straight and he's just like, oh yeah, so this is what's what.
Yeah, but like I said, like Tywin was an amazing character. I think one of my favorite scenes of just like dialogue or maybe like just a monologue, I guess, as well is like with Oberyn and Tyrion when Tyrion is in the cell.
Oh,
and
yes.
Oberyn like proclaims himself to be Tyrion's champion. That entire scene is amazing. Like
so
like
good.
to the point where they talk about like how they met like as kids and like how Oberyn explains like like they were coming in to meet this monster and all we saw was just a midget, like where's the monster? Like all that kind of stuff, So like
pretty much explaining how like we never saw you different. Everybody like your brothers and sisters, everybody was like, oh, this freak, and we're like, we just see someone who's maybe a little smaller than us, but still a human being all the same.
Yeah, because like when I first watched it, like I was kind of indifferent to Oberyn. I was just like, like he's cool, but he hasn't really done shit or whatever. And then like that scene happened, and I was like full on Team Oberyn.
Yes.
And then next episode, he died to the mountain. So.
Hey, but he killed the mountain at least.
But he did kill the mountain, yeah. But like that scene as well is great, right? Where he keeps yelling for the confession.
Yeah, and he gets amazing. It. What Tywin hates, and Tywin is like pissed afterwards because he got his confession in front of the whole court. Everybody heard the mountain confess.
Yeah, that's that was rough.
That was rough.
Yeah.
A small scene I liked was when Arya and the Hound were walking together and went to this one family, like I think a father with his daughter, and then like they stole from them and whatever, and I think the Hound came back and found them dead, as they said what would happen because they don't have as much food for the winter or whatever. I forgot. But then he was like really, they're digging their graves and trying to say a prayer but couldn't remember, and it's like really sorry, like I'm sorry that you're dead, really, I'm really sorry that you're dead. You didn't deserve it. That was a great moment too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the scenes with Hound and Arya are really good. I also like the part where like I think it's where they meet actually, like where Hound shows up in the bar. Right?
In the on the how is it called? The inn at the crossroads, I guess, right?
Yeah, something like that. But then like it has like a couple of Lannister soldiers, and they like kind of like tease him and taunt him, and he just wants to eat chickens, Yeah. So that's a great scene.
Wasn't that where he said "fuck the king"? And that was not a good.
Yeah. That's where he says "fuck the king." Yeah.
Speaking of which. Know what battle we've forgotten about that was amazing and just felt like two monsters going at it? Was Brienne and the Hound when they fought over Arya.
Oh, yeah.
That was so good. And the scene where, like, Brienne is just punching him in the face and Hound is backpedaling. And it looks like it's going so fast. It literally felt like some kind of, like, just like these two huge built-up characters, not only in stature, but, like, just in their presence and their, like, aura around them. And they just fucking start throwing hands.
That was great, yeah.
I also like because the thing is like both of them like are knights. Obviously, like Hound is like a lot more of a gritty character than Brienne is anyway. But like I like the shift in the fight as well, where like at the end, like you said, it's just them just like pounding each other, basically. Just like it's there's no real like good form of fighting and everything. It's just a brawl. Which I think like starts with just like Hound like kicking Brienne in her fahin, But
also, what's interesting about that scene that both those characters are not knighted, but they both deserved it. If you
Oh
would be
yeah, is the Hound not knighted?
no, his brother is he not?
Oh, okay.
Wait,
because
the
the Hound.
I thought
The
the Hound
Hound
was
at
knighted.
one point.
I think
Yeah,
he
the
was.
Hound at one point.
He was knighted
like,
later.
Part of the Kingsguard, right?
The Hound? No, he was just
So,
the bodyguard of Joffrey. He was not Kingsguard.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough then. Yeah. Then I got that wrong. Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh yeah, Brienne gets knighted in the last season.
Yeah.
And I think Sandor, I don't know if he ever gets knighted or might be true, but I don't remember it. I think it was a thing in the first season that his brother was knighted, but him not.
Ah, okay.
We can just Google this.
Yeah.
Was the
Get that Google. Get the Google machine ready, AJ.
Years later, Gregor Clegane was knighted by Rhaegar Targaryen, and Sandor's dream died in the memories of his flames searing his skin and his brother holding him down. Yet, even when he is raised to the Kingsguard, so the Hound was part of the Kingsguard.
Oh, okay, sorry for that.
The Hound refuses to be knighted.
Oh, so you refused. All right. Oh, yeah, probably because he doesn't want to be like
In line with his brother, and like his brother was knighted and then like burnt him and like held it over him. So he's like, I don't want that shit.
Yeah.
But interesting, like
that's
both.
actually like a cool character detail that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
See, guys, we're learning stuff on this podcast here today. So maybe if you motherfuckers that were complaining about the show would pay the fuck attention.
Like it makes like it's good to like I read the books now, and every name I get over, I Google it just so I have the relationship with where it belongs to, and it's so interesting. Like the first person who died, like from the White Walkers in the first scene, that was the son of the knight from the how is it called?
From the Vale.
Yeah, from the Vale, like this white-haired guy and stuff like
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also like interesting how this all is connected.
Yeah.
It's a great series. But one thing I wanted to talk.
It really is. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to sell. There was like talk in the internet that there is this one scene with Melisandre where she's taking a bath, I think in the 4th season, and she takes her necklace off, and she's not.
She isn't taking a bath. She's going to bed.
Oh, maybe that I forgot that. Like, what do you think? Was this a production mistake or not? Because you didn't.
What?
Because later she took her necklace off and then she turned into the old. Like 2 times she took it off.
Fucked up lady.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I was mistaken. When she takes a bath, does she take it off?
Yeah,
it's off. Yeah,
I think so.
I guess that's a production mistake. So
the point is, I don't think so, because the 4th season they knew what they were doing, because from the 4th season on they had the ending in mind. They said many times, and they make like a deal out of it. With like they show the necklace in big in the camera, like in close even. So I've read or I've seen like a theory which is stupid. But I don't know if it's stupid, but it makes sense a little that the wife of Stannis, we see the scene from her perspective, so to say, because the books are from different perspectives.
Point of view chapters, right?
Yeah, and you have some chapters that are you cannot trust the narrator because he's brainwashed or whatever. And in this scene, it might be the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you see it from her perspective, and she's the most brainwashed of them all from this religious standpoint.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't given that part that much thought. I think like it's probably just a continuity error.
Yeah.
The point
is, I wouldn't necessarily mind, because like even if they say they had it from the 4th season on, like I remember when season 5 and either season 5 or 6 came out, and like George R. Martin's health was in question. That like he was apparently telling them how the books end and kind of helping them be like, this is the direction you could go within the show.
Yeah.
And so like I think they might have said, oh, we kind of we knew where we were going, but like I don't think they entirely meant it.
That's probably like I think they had a general idea of where they were headed, right? But that's why I also think, like, for example, Euron Greyjoy gets introduced in season 6, while in the books, like if you go by books, he should be introduced like in season 3 or 4, I think, somewhere along those lines, right? But he gets introduced in season 6 probably because they were told, like, hey, he's going to be pretty important in the finishing stretch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So,
But the books are completely different. Sometimes their characters survived who died in the series, and so that makes it interesting to read it. Or
yeah. Like, I definitely want to read the books as well, but like the thing for me is like I'm just waiting for fucking George R. R. Martin to finish those books so I can just binge those in one go.
Yeah, I was thinking
about
doing that the same.
Yeah. Well,
Also, about the whole necklace thing, because someone raised this point to me. They're like, oh, there's more things I would have liked explained. I was like, what are you talking about? This show goes into so much detail. But they're like, oh, Melisandre and like her necklace. Like, what's the story behind that? And I was like, well, it's pretty obvious. She's, a servant of the Lord of Light. She has this magical necklace to keep her alive so that she can do the Lord of Light's bidding. What else do you need? And he's like, well, like, how did she get it? And what's the deal with her? And this, and I was like, man, you can't nitpick that much, because then every character you run into has to have several episodes dedicated to their shit, and that's just not possible. I think for her character and for what you need, I think you get plenty.
Yeah, it's known what she was a slave, sold to the Red Temple, and then went to Ashanti. And in the whole books, there's only one chapter from her perspective, which is interesting, by the way.
Yeah,
the rest is talking about her.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like, I think like some people obviously some people get fascinated by like different stuff. Yeah, I mean like I know a lot of people, like, for example, brought up the direwolves.
Yeah,
and they were like, yeah, I thought they were going to be really important. I was like, no, I never thought they were going to be important.
They
like
were
one
important.
of one of the like names of one of the direwolves, I think, is Shaggy Dog. Yeah, and in storytelling, like a Shaggy Dog story is like you expect something to happen or a character to do something, it just doesn't happen. Like they just fucking get killed or something.
Yeah.
So
which
to be fair,
what happens to pretty much every direwolf except for Ghost. Like the direwolves are there to have like an emotional connection to the Stark kids.
Also, they are foreshadowing in the books, at least. Every direwolf foreshadows the story of its owner. Like, I just read it in the first book from Bran's direwolf. He looked at you, and in his eyes you could see he wanted to know everything. He wanted to see everything at once and stuff like this. And
yeah.
So maybe they included them because, like, when they first introduced the direwolves as puppies, and like the first couple seasons, like their connection with their owners are fairly important. Like, at least they make good note of it. So it kind of felt like they were going to have something of more importance. And then as they were given away or died off or whatever it was, you kind of lose track of them. So to be fair to some people, I could kind of see why they're kind of like, why weren't the dogs a big deal? But at the same time, that's the beauty of the show is like, well, not everything has to have this bigger meaning. Sometimes you got to have these like little red herrings to lead you along to distract you from something else or whatever it may be. But at first, they were kind of built as like something that you were going to need to get emotionally attached to. But I don't have an issue that didn't really pay off.
I disagree with that because in the first season, two of them fuck off. Lady gets killed and Nymeria leaves.
Yeah.
So why are you expecting so much else from the other direwolves?
But those also...
the reason being is because at least when the one was told to fuck off or else it was going to be killed, that was like a kind of a big plot point within the first season, at least with those couple episodes. That, like, she had to give up this thing that she loved, and that was like a protector for her and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, but also...
And then eventually I think it does come back.
No.
Nymeria comes back in season 7. Like, she's leading like a wolf pack.
Yeah,
and Arya runs into her in the wild, but that's it, right? And then, but the thing is, like, they do like emphasize Jon and Ghost. Like, they have a better connection than the other ones. That's probably why Ghost fucking lives the entire time and gets the nice big boy pat at the end of the finale.
Yeah, but also because Jon is reconnecting with the North, I think, in this moment. Everybody else disconnected from it.
Yeah.
Like Arya,
that's the whole symbolism, right? Like he walks away from Ghost first, just by looking at, like, doesn't even like give him anything because, like, at that point he's trying to like go more with his Targaryen roots. But then at the end, he connects more with his Stark roots and the North.
Yeah.
So that's why he gets all cuddly with Ghost, and we have the best scene in the entire fucking series.
And Arya also goes in the wild.
I was about to say this. Also, if you bring up Arya's org, like, so
like that's kind of symbolism as well. So like maybe one they added these into the show because the books did, so they didn't want to get heat for not having them in, so they'll just throw them in there, and they'll be little plot points throughout, but they're not going to be an emphasis like maybe they are in the books. So like at least add them so people don't get heated because they like them in the books. So maybe that's why they're in there. But if you look at Arya, very similar story, kind of foreshadowing like they said they do in the books.
Yeah,
in the series, and is by herself a large majority of the time, becomes a fucking badass, and then season 7 heads home. Her wolf, warg, whatever you want to call it, fucks off, has to fuck off, leads a pack, becomes a badass. They find each other headed home. Like I would have liked more than just a brief interaction, but like, you know, maybe that's enough. Maybe there's not time for other stuff, but maybe if they had a little bit more. But again, you know, it's a wolf. It was probably like, but even still, that's kind of like a cool like mirroring story.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like if you look at like Shaggy Dog and Rickon, like fuck them anyway. You know, who gives a shit about Rickon? But then like Summer and Bran, like Summer, like kind of like fulfills his role in that he like sacrifices himself for Bran. Are you gonna go eating again, AJ?
Also, Summer.
No, why?
Summer is called Summer, and he did like he's the opposite of winter. That makes sense.
Yeah, but like he sacrificed himself for Bran, as a lot of other people do, like as a lot of other characters do, right? And then like if you have like, but if you have like Grey Wind and Robb, like that's like the same thing as the entire red herring and everything, and like with the Red Wedding, like it's just to humiliate the Starks even further. Yeah. So they all like serve a purpose. You know what I mean?
And like I said, when Robb's wolf's head got put on his body and paraded around, and they even said like, "Oh, we even got his wolf," like, which I guess is part of the legend of Robb Stark.
They showed them killing the wolf. Like the wolf is in like a fucking in a cell, kind of, in a cage, and they just crossbow him down. That like, to me, that's what broke me the most about the Red Wedding.
Also,
got down.
The whole thing with the wolves that is more not explained, but is more put in focus in the books is there is like this big connection between animals and their companions, or like their humans or whatever, because there's like this soul swap. You have this in the series with this one character. Is it called a Varg? The guy from the north, the wildling?
Warg.
The Warg. You have this a little bit, but it's much more strongly in the books that your soul goes over to the animal.
They imply that Jon has like those kind of abilities as well, right?
Yeah,
I think.
Also, like not just Jon.
Like it's what
even the Hound.
It's way more of a thing in just the Stark blood in general.
No, not just Stark, but it's the Hound has a bigger, strange connection to his horse, for example. And stuff like this. It's more like the book is a little bit more high fantasy, I would say. It has more this magical undertone underneath all.
Yeah.
So, before we end here, because fucking AJ's eating made me hungry too.
Well, I didn't eat anything. What are you talking about?
Motherfucker.
I was putting a bowl in the sink. Jesus, sorry for cleaning.
Why now? Okay, like, what are your last words you want to say about the series? What do you like? I don't know.
If you don't like it, fuck you.
Not
really, but
I'd have to say that, like, by far, it is like it's my favorite show of all time. Like favorite TV show by far, and it is one of my favorite I guess storytelling mechanisms.
The word you were looking for is story.
Yeah. I guess, but like also like just the way it's being told. You know what I mean? So
I would say it's my second favorite show of all time. And
fuck you.
But it's definitely the best through
What's
story.
What's your favorite?
Supernatural. But
get fucked.
But Game of Thrones is a way better story.
Christ.
It's way better writing. Yeah. Like now, like because I was into Supernatural from the very beginning. Now it's definitely jumped the shark years ago. But like I still just enjoy it because of the fandom in me. But Game of Thrones is like by far the best story I've ever watched through a television medium. the writing is beautiful. If you're a person that's angry about it or like doesn't get it, then like you got to lower your expectations and realize that like real stories and history doesn't play to your fantastical needs, and that's the beauty of the show. Also, the devil's in the details. Like, listen to the things the characters say and really digest it, because it makes the experience all that much more better and more beautiful. It's worth a second go through because it's very rewatchable, because now you understand certain dialogue even better and pick up on little things better. And then, like, again, it's just this whole thing of like no one's safe. It's more of a real world story, even though it has dragons and stuff like that, than most historical dramas because no one's safe. Everyone can die. They don't always die heroically, and that's just the gritty realism of life and playing like the Game of Thrones, literally. Like, that's just, and I think that's so beautiful about it. And then even through that, even though there isn't all these satisfying payoffs and all this kind of stuff, it keeps you hooked, and you care about everyone, whether you hate them, love them, or whatever it may be. There's no characters people are really like disopinionated about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've said, like time and again during this entire thing, like what I think is really good about it is like the entire gray area, as you alluded to. Like, I think that's like very much the reality of it as well. Like, none of these characters are really just purely good or purely evil. You know what I mean? And like and I think that's what I mainly meant about just like how great it's written.
Yeah,
and all of that.
And then even with that point, you learn that if someone doesn't have that like hint of gray, like Ned was probably the most, pure one of them all, that's his downfall.
Yeah.
Which kind of helps, I think, with the Jon storyline, because you've seen someone who's good get killed for it. So now you're just kind of like, oh, Jon's even better and more true than Ned. Like, oh, man.
Yeah.
So I think it just feeds into that, which, again, is beautiful underlying storytelling, which if you people would pay attention to the goddamn dialogue and, like, read a book or something, you maybe understand.
So, thank you, gentlemen.
What about you, Shooter?
I am just what you said.
That's bullshit.
No, it's like it's a great show about interesting characters. They are deep characters. They are believable, even if it's a fantasy setting. And you can
talk about Friends right now or Game of Thrones. All right, give us a real answer.
Oh, Friends. Ross and his dragons.
Yeah, Ross and his. I mean, he does love dinosaurs, so
that's why I said Ross.
Yeah, I like it.
So the next show will be about Friends, I guess, or Supernatural, but no, that's bullshit.
No, it's gonna be about Godzilla.
Monsters.
God, keep up. Fuck. Shooter, pay attention to the dialogue.
Keep up.
Alright, guys, are you finished?
Robert, yes, we are. Come back in, grab yourself a beer, enjoy your evening.
I'm an athlete, I don't drink beer.
So, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. This was kind of not a regular episode of Blown Up, as you probably heard. But we will be back soon with more Blown Up content, together with the mighty, as I learned, Robert Dreisker. Robert, see you soon.
No, you're the mighty one. I'm just Avalanche.